Children and many adults can't tell us why they do something, and often the reason a behavior continues isn't obvious. To understand why behavior occurs, we look at the context that surrounds the behavior. In ABA, we call this the ABCs. This stands for antecedent, behavior, consequence, and applies whether the behavior is desirable or undesirable. An antecedent is anything that happens right before the behavior that you are interested in. An antecedent will usually occur within the 30 seconds preceding the behavior. This is often referred to as the trigger. The antecedent is observable, but may not be obvious. Common antecedents include giving a demand, restricted attention, restricted access to desired items, unstructured time, and transitions. Behavior is anything the child does that you are interested in understanding better. It may be desired, as in a behavior you want to occur more frequently, or undesired, as in a behavior you would want to occur less frequently. In ABA, we are careful to define the behavior objectively. Avoid placing judgments such as emotions. For example, when defining a tantrum or an outburst, we avoid using the term mad, such as Rebecca gets mad. Instead, we include what the behavior looks like, what you see, which could be Rebecca throws herself on the floor and kicks her feet. Common behaviors include tantrums, aggression, refusal or noncompliance, following directions, eloping, and flopping. A consequence is anything that happens right after the behavior you are interested in. The consequence usually occurs within 30 seconds after the behavior. When you hear the word consequence, it might bring to mind some form of punishment, like time out. However, consequence isn't necessarily an artificial consequence intentionally applied by someone else. It may be a natural result of an action or something an individual does without thought, such as giving your child a hug when she appears upset. The consequence is observable, but may not be obvious. Common consequences include offering a choice, a reprimand, a reward, removing an item, discussion, and ignoring behavior. In addition to the ABCs, we also consider setting events. A setting event sometimes impacts behavior. It's something that occurs before a behavior, but more remotely than an antecedent. Some setting events are within your control, but others are not. Common setting events include a change in medication, lack of sleep, hunger, change in routine, or the presence or absence of a specific person. So how can we use this context of the behavior to understand it? You'll begin by writing it down. Collecting ABC or SABC data allows you to take an objective look at the context of behavior and look for patterns. There are many ways for you to do this. The images here depict two common options. Either write in what occurred or use a form with checkboxes to more quickly record what happened. You can download data sheets in the resources section to use for data collection. The form with empty boxes allows for a more complete documentation of events surrounding the behavior you want to learn more about. Simply write in exactly what happened before, the antecedent, and after, the consequence, the behavior. Also document any setting events that potentially impacted the behavior. This form requires more time to fill in and analyze than the form with checkboxes, and may consequently result in less frequent data collection. The data sheet with checkboxes allows for quick documentation of behavioral events. Simply check off what happened. The limited number of choices makes analyzing the data simple. Easily count the number of occurrences for each option to determine which occurs most frequently. You'll learn more about how to use this data in a future lesson. Let's look at what this might look like. Andrew meets with his BCBA to talk about strategies he can use with his daughter Anne while they're at home. She begins by talking about the context of the behavior, using examples she's seen during sessions. She explains ABC data using the example of throwing toys, which she has seen Anne do on a number of occasions. She reminds Andrew that he asked Anne to clean up her toys right before she threw one across the room. She explains that this is the antecedent that comes before the behavior. The consequence, or what happened right after the behavior, was that Andrew asked her what was wrong. She asked Andrew to make a note of the antecedent and consequence for each incident until their next meeting. Over the next few days, Andrew pays extra attention to what is happening when Anne throws toys. The first time it happens, Anne is playing in the living room when Andrew tells her it's time to go. She had been playing happily until then, and out of nowhere, she threw the train across the room. Although Andrew isn't proud of his reaction, he notes down that he yelled at her. He had been in a hurry and was already stressed out and really didn't have time to deal with a fight with Anne. The next incident occurs when Andrew tells Anne it's time for bed. Just like the previous time, Anne has been playing peacefully until Andrew told her to stop. Because he knew Anne would never go to sleep so upset, he worked with her to calm down before getting ready for bed. He noted this as the consequence, but he doesn't know what else he could have done. It's not easy at first to make the time to write down the information, but he knows he'll forget what happened if he doesn't. He continues to make these notes until his next meeting with the BCBA. At the meeting, they review the information he collected, but isn't sure yet what it all means.